Hello, Daniel here with Five Star Property Management. I'm the managing broker for Five Star Property Management. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about what it would take to become a landlord in El Paso, Texas. Um, there's 9 steps. Produced a little quick 9-step guide to becoming a landlord. These are some of the key points and things that you need to know if you decide to become a landlord. And in El Paso, it's a very unique market. It's a very cool market because um, we have a huge economic hub that feeds our real estate market. And what I mean by that is we have Fort Bliss Military Base, which is one of the largest military bases in the country, let alone in the world, partnered with Biggs Airfield and White Sands Missile Range. It provides a great economic hub for El Paso, Texas. So owning real estate in El Paso is a great investment. And there's a lot of things that need to be taken into consideration when you do decide to become a landlord. And so I want to talk to you about those. And then also talk to you about what we provide as far as a property management company goes and how we could help come alongside you if you decided to do something on your own. We would love to provide all the information, or you may come back and look at all this information and say, you know what? I got a full time job. I'm busy. I got a family. I got things to do. I don't have time to manage this property. And earlier I said, either you purposely become a landlord or you become one by accident. And what I mean by that is, we have investors obviously come to El Paso and they're looking for homes and they say, yeah, I want to buy this house and make an investment property. And then I have other people that have homes in El Paso and they have to move for whatever reason. They have to PCS to another base. And now they're left with a property that they maybe bought with little equity, little down payment. And when they try to go to sell it, they're realizing, I really can't sell this thing. I don't want to have to come out of pocket. And so the best option at this point is to rent it out. Now, renting a property is not an easy task. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to it. But with this guide, I can show you if this is something you decide to do on your own that maybe you say, yeah, I could tackle this. And so that's what we'll do. We're going to walk you through that process. I'm with Five Star Property Management. We are a full service property management company. We do everything on this list, but probably 10 times more detailed regarding each of these steps because we have to be, because we're a professional company. We're held to a standard, not only a legal standard of making sure we have the homes ready to go and things like that, but we also have a lot of clients, and those clients depend on us and they're trusting us with their most precious asset, their home, the most expensive asset they will probably ever own is a home. And so, with that being said, I want to go through this guide real quick and talk about it. And then, if you are interested in providing, getting some more services, or maybe doing a personal phone call with myself or one of our salespeople, we can definitely give you a call and go over the details and talk to you a little bit more about it. So, starting with that, let's start with step one, which is researching the market. So you want to know where in El Paso you want to purchase a home. Now, El Paso is not a really huge city, but it is big enough that there are different areas and different price points of homes and things like that, investment properties. And so obviously El Paso has a west side, they have an east side, there's a far east side, which is Horizon area. Then there's a northeast where Fort Bliss is more located there on the northeast side. There's the central El Paso, which is kind of the 54 and 10 marker there, the highway. And then anything south of the 10 is going to be considered the lower valley. Then you have, further out east is going to be Socorro area and whatnot. So knowing and researching what part of the market, what part of town you want to invest a property is going to be very important. Houses on the far east side, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, may be X amount of dollars. And then on the west side, it may be 3 times that amount. We don't know. You just got to research and you got to know where you're going to get the best value for your dollar. So researching the market is step one. Step two is purchasing the right property. So, what type of property do you want to buy? Do you want to buy a single family home? Do you want to buy a duplex? Do you want to buy a triplex, a fourplex? Do you want to own a big apartment building, 10 plus units? That's all possible. That stuff is all available in El Paso. And you have to determine based on budget what you can afford, where you want to afford it. Do you want to buy something that produces a lot of rental income that diversifies over two or three tenants? Or do you want to buy a single family home where you have one tenant and that tenant will stay there for 12 months and then you got to find a new tenant or you got to renew that tenant or whatever the case may be? So, actually finding the right property is going to be step two. Step three is understanding your legal responsibilities. So, as a landlord, you are held to a standard. Obviously, there is a lease that is involved. That's a legal binding document. You have to have one of these leases either prepared by an attorney or you have to find one that will protect not only you, the property, but also the tenant. Has it clearly defined on roles and responsibilities for each of the tenant and the landlord, who's to fix what and whatnot. That's one part of it. The other part of it is making sure that the house is ready to rent. So, with every home that in the state of Texas, it's bound by a Texas property code. And Texas property code is a very lengthy document that has a lot of information in it. And it tells you basically what needs to happen before you could actually rent out a home. Talks about making sure the home is from a safety standpoint in good condition and from a health standpoint in good condition, making sure you have the right type of locks on the door, making sure you have the little latches on the deadbolt, making sure you have smoke detectors in every bedroom in the hallway. So these are all just things that need to take place before you could rent out your home. And obviously, the home has to be habitable. So you have to have running water, you have to have form of ventilation, whether it be heat or air conditioning or evaporative cooler. And then obviously, electricity is a huge thing as well. Most people do like electricity. And so you got to have that as well. So, with that being said, there are some legal responsibilities that you have to adhere to. The next part in the step four is actually going to be screening your tenants. And when you're screening tenants, this also has a legal aspect to it as well. When you screen your tenants, you obviously want to identify and know who these people are that are renting your home. Now, with that being said, you want to do a background check. You want to do a credit check. You want to do an employment verification. You got to verify how much they make. You want to see pay stubs, maybe bank statements, stuff like that. And then you want to also verify through a rental history check. So you want to contact the previous landlord that they rented from and ask them some questions. Hey, this person said they rented this house from you. Did they pay rent on time? Did they take care of the property? Would you rent to them again? These are all questions that you want to ask them. And then you want to take all that information, look it over, scan it through really good, and determine, do you want this person living in your home? Now, there are obviously some fair housing things as well that you have to adhere to. You can't discriminate people based on sex, age, familiar status, and a couple other items that you want to verify and look up. And that, if you do, you can get in big trouble for. And so you want to be careful with that, making sure that you don't discriminate tenants based on those. There are obviously potential fines that could happen if you don't fix a property within a certain amount of time, or you have certain things that if somebody ends up taking you to court or suing you or whatever the case may be, can be a problem that you may or may not want to deal with. So, with that being said, that's step four, screen your tenants. You want to make sure, obviously, you screen your tenants right. Handling maintenance and repairs. So this is always a fun one. So something breaks in the house, who's responsible? Well, the house, if it naturally breaks, if it's just normal wear and tear, the owner is typically going to be responsible for it. If it's something that you can prove or can be pretty evident that the tenant broke, then obviously the tenant will pay for it. But as a landlord, you have to be readily available to answer the phone and to be able to dispatch a contractor or a handyman or somebody that you know to go and fix these certain items in the house. And so being available to do that, being able to take a call, being able to have contractors lined up that have already been vetted that you trust is going to be a big thing that you want to do ahead of time. You don't want to wait till the last minute to be able to call a contractor or call somebody from Google and say, yeah, I got water spewing out of my kitchen sink. I need somebody to go there. He goes there and he's going to charge an arm and a leg because he knows you're desperate. You don't want to get in that position. So you want to be able to have maintenance people well in advance to be able to be basically on call for you. If you ever need them, you can give them a call and they go out and fix what they need to do. Obviously, if you don't have this, then hiring a property management company would be the best thing to do. As a property management firm, we have probably 20 plus vendors not to mention in-house staff that handles all of our maintenance. We have a software that basically you can file a report 24/7. So we get access. So if it's an emergency after hours, we get notification and we can tend to that issue. Um, and so that's just some of the perks of having a professional property management company handling the maintenance and repairs for your home. So number six is setting competitive rental rates. So how do you determine what your house could rent for? That's really all dependent upon what other houses in the area are renting for. You can't just make up a number out of thin air. You can't say, you know what, my mortgage is $1,800, so I need $1,800 a month in rent. When the houses and the rentals in the area are only getting $1,500 a month. How you purchased that property, what your interest rate was, property tax rate, all that stuff plays a huge factor determining how much you have to output every month in that mortgage payment. What you can bring in is going to be determined upon what the market's able to bear. So there could be times when there are an influx of rental homes, which would make the market very weak at that time. So if there's basically more renters than there are houses, then at that point you produce a demand for more rentals. In this situation, at the time that I'm doing this video, we currently have a surplus of rental properties and we don't have enough renters. So for every two houses we have on the market, we have one person looking for that home. And that area, that ratio could vary depending on the certain areas that I talked about earlier, like west side of El Paso, east side, northeast, south side, things like that. So knowing the market, knowing what you can charge for rent is huge. Having a professional company be able to do the market analysis for you ahead of time is going to be your best bet, because we have access to information through the MLS that doesn't necessarily populate on other third-party sites like Zillow and things like that. So with that being said, we have more accurate information. You could determine exactly what other houses are renting for. And that's what we're going to be able to get. Now, you may be thinking, well, that's not going to cover my mortgage. And I need to cover my mortgage because I don't have an extra $300 or $400 to do that. And the best thing I could say about that is real estate in a whole, owning real estate is always a long-term game, always a long-term game, never a short-term game. And if you end up buying a house and you have to be forced to sell it and you got to sell it, typically you're going to either lose money or maybe even just break even. But with a rental house, there's a lot of ways to make money. And let me show you that. So one of the ways is cash flow. And that's a great way. And that's in this market is not a very likely thing that you're going to be able to make $200-300 above your mortgage unless you put a big down payment and you have a very low interest rate. The other way you make money in real estate or rental homes is you have somebody else paying a good portion of your mortgage, if not all of your mortgage. And what I mean by that, if your mortgage is $1,500 and you have somebody paying you $1,400 in rent, well, that's a good deal because somebody's paying over 90% of your mortgage and you're reaping the benefits from that. And what I mean by reaping the benefits is that you're getting the tax deduction on your taxes at the end of the year as a rental property. You're also gaining the appreciation of that property over the years. Every year, that house will appreciate in value as long as it's being taken care of. Now, that's another whole story right then and there, if the home is being taken care of. So, with that being said, looking at your rental rates and looking at the market value is going to be the best way to determine what you're going to get for rent for your home. So number seven is obviously drafting a solid lease agreement. So you want to have a solid lease agreement. You want to have something that has either been put together by an attorney, or if you are a seasoned real estate person, investor, you may already have your own leases in place, but you definitely want to have something put in place that's going to protect you, protect your property, and also outline details of what the expectations are for the tenant. If you have an attorney friend or you know an attorney, they can probably produce a document for you for anywhere between $500 and a couple $1,000s. If you work with a professional property management company, then we already have those for you, along with the numbers of addendums and things that go with that. Our leases range about 16, 17 pages. And so those are documents that have already been reviewed by attorneys, and they cover all the bases for the Texas Property Code and things like that. And from there, we obviously use those leases, and those have worked really well for us. But if you're a landlord on your own and looking to do it for yourself, you're going to have to produce some kind of document that'll stand any kind of legal battle, if that's the case, if you ever have to go to court or take a tenant to court or whatever the case may be. So that's number 7. Number 8 is collecting rent and managing the finances. So as a landlord, your job is to collect rent, and you have to make sure you collect rent on time. And if the tenant doesn't pay on time, are you going to assess late charges? And how are you going to get that money? Do you have the money to Zelle to you? Do you have a software program where they can pay? As a property management company, we have a software company, or not a software company, we have a software that allows us to collect rent, keep track of all the rents, keep track of all the expenses. It also allows the tenant to pay in cash, allows the tenant to pay with money orders, allows the tenant to pay at Walgreens, Walmart. They can go to 7-Eleven and pay their rent. We just give a lot of convenience. We also obviously allow them to pay online, so they can do that as well. That is part of the process. And a tenant wants to be able to access and say, hey, I need to know how much rent I've paid in 2024. And you have to be able to provide that documentation for them. You obviously got to keep track of all your expenses as well, because at the end of the year, you can give those to your CPA for to work your taxes and stuff like that. So with that being said, that's number 8. Number 9 is obviously hiring a professional property management company. So 5-star property management, that's what we do. We manage hundreds and hundreds of properties. We have hundreds and hundreds of landlords, and same thing with tenants. And we manage all of that from A to Z. And we provide it when we take over a property. It's a very seamless process from the time that we get into the property, the new account inspection, to get the professional photos taken, to get it professionally put on the market, get it leased up, prepping the leases, doing the lease renewals, doing all the inspections. All of that is handled without the owner ever knowing all that's happening in the background. What they see in the background is that their house is up on the market, their house is leased up, they're collecting the rent check every month, and they're getting all the paperwork they need, and they're getting all the communication is getting sent to them, and they are happy, happy people. And so hiring a professional property management company is really the way to do it. Unless you decide you want to become a professional landlord, then yes, you can definitely do it on your own. You can definitely learn and figure it all out. Definitely not a problem. With this step-by-step guide, it can show you a lot of key things that you need to do. And I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it if you decide you want to do that. But if you work a full-time job, you got a family, and you have a lot of responsibilities, being a full-time property manager may not be the thing that you want to do. You being a landlord may not be in your best interest. It may cost you more money for you to be a landlord, or to manage your property yourself, than to just hire it out to somebody else who can professionally do it. So with that being said, I want to encourage you that if you look through this process in this video, you read the video's notes here, you can see a little bit more detail, some more information. We would love to talk to you in person. If you have any questions or would like to give us a call, we'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions with no obligation. My name's Daniel. I'm with 5-Star Property Management. I'm the managing broker, and thank you for tuning in.